All right, good afternoon. As we begin today, the Winona Senior High School Athletic Hall of Fame, we would like to just take a moment to recognize the life well lived. Dave Murtis, a Hall of Fame committee member and also a standout center, 1953 Winona Senior High graduate, all Big Nine honors in football, lettered in 3 sports, became one of the most decorated linemen in Winona State history, earning all NIC honors 3 times, AP Little All-American recognition in 56, Glenn Galligan Award while capturing the Warriors 2 conference titles. 35-year teacher at Winona Senior High School. He was honored with the induction into the Winona Senior High, Winona State, and Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference Hall of Fames. Dave was also a founding member of this Winhawk Hall of Fame committee. He passed away Saturday, March 8th. He was 88 years old, and it's only fitting that we do a moment of silence in his honor. Thank you. We also want to throw a shout out to another Hall of Fame committee member that couldn't be here today, Don Cloggy. He's another founding member. I know he's watching the live stream right now, so give him a big shout out from his living room. Pretty awesome game last night. I know the score didn't go the way we wanted to, but this was one of those very unique years in terms of football. And where do we put Hall of Fame? For those of you that don't realize, we actually played a home game last week. We play a home game this week as well. Our first game of the season was a home game. That was 2 weeks before school started. That wasn't going to happen. Our last home game of the year, our last game of the year is on a Wednesday. That's our home final home game. So it was like, where do we put it? We went back and forth, talking with volleyball, the sports and whatnot, and we really, it was a flip of a coin. And ultimately, we put it last night. We couldn't have made a better choice. If you were here last week, you know, up until we finished 23 seconds before halftime, and then the rains came, thunder and lightning. I don't think it stopped lightning until about 11:30. So the game was called. So kudos. I've been out there in those Hall of Fame ceremonies where it rained and we got wet, but last night couldn't have been a more perfect night for that. So thank you all for your attendance. My name's Casey Indra, and I'm the Proud Activities Director at Winona Senior High School. It's an honor to welcome you to this year's Winona Senior High School Athletic Hall of Fame induction ceremony, a celebration of excellence, legacy, and the powerful spirit of athletics. Today, we pay tribute to a group of individuals who have worn our school colors with pride, pushed boundaries with determination, and inspired youth through their leadership, sportsmanship, and talent. These are the athletes and coaches who didn't just play the game. They defined it for our school. The Hall of Fame is more than just a wall of names or a ceremony. It's a lasting tribute to those who have gone above and beyond in competition, in character, and in commitment to the school and community. Their stories are not just part of our history, they are our history. As we honor our inductees today, we also remind ourselves of the values that high school sports instill: discipline, teamwork, perseverance, and pride in something bigger than oneself. These values last long after the scoreboard hits 0. So thank you all for being here to celebrate these legends and to recognize the impact they've had on our school, our community, and our hearts. Today, I want to talk about something that goes beyond training, beyond competition, and even beyond victory. I want to talk about family. Family is often the first thing we ever have. They drive us to early morning practices, sit through freezing games, and sweltering tournaments, offer pep talks after tough losses, and cheer the loudest in the biggest moments. They celebrate our wins, but more importantly, they help us bounce back from setbacks. Sometimes family is a mom in the stands with a stopwatch, a dad who catches for hours in the backyard after work, a sibling who gives up their weekend to travel to tournaments, a grandparent or in my case, my wife, who never misses a game, even if they don't fully understand the rules. And sometimes, family isn't just blood. It's the teammates who become brothers and sisters, the coaches who become mentors, the community that show up season after season just to support their kids. In athletics, we talk a lot about strength, speed, and skill. But the quiet, consistent strength of family, their patience, pride, their presence, is what gives so many athletes the courage to keep going. Being an athlete means early mornings, late nights, sore muscles, and constant challenges. But it also means learning the value of trust, discipline, and unity. On the field, the court, the mat, on the ice, wherever we train and compete, we don't just build strength or speed, we build relationships. We push each other to be better. We catch each other when we fall. We celebrate each other's victories, and we feel each other's defeats. That's what families do. Families don't always get along perfectly. We argue. We have bad days. But at the end of the day, we come back stronger and stronger because we know we're in this together. We train side by side, we fight side by side, and we grow side by side. And it's not just within a single team. Athletes and coaches from different sports, different backgrounds, and different countries still understand what it means to sacrifice for a goal. We speak the same language as perseverance and passion. And those shared experiences connect us all. It's because of this strong Winhawk family that we gather here today to celebrate the accomplishments of Brian Lipinski, Carly Moran, Randy Mueller, John Ruggeberg, Scott Sutter, and Chris Stedman. As I conclude my little part here, it's only fitting to say, once a Winhawk, always a Winhawk. I can't think of a better saying after I've talked about family than just to leave it at that. So thank you again for being here. And at this time, I would like to welcome Brad Brzezinski, Superintendent of Winona Public Schools, to the podium for a few remarks.
Good afternoon. Welcome. On behalf of Winona Public Schools, I'd certainly like to welcome you and congratulate each of our inductees. As Casey noted, my name is Brad Brzezinski, proud to serve as superintendent here at Winona Public Schools. I've had the opportunity for a long time to be connected to this event as a committee member for a number of years, and I'll tell you, it is always one of the highlights of my year. And it's the connection and the community that we see. Well, we'll hear the stories that presenters tell and that our inductees tell, and I want to just focus on that theme for a moment of connection and community. I think that athletics, all the great things that come along with school-based athletics, I'm not going to spell those out for you, but that notion of connection and community, I would reinforce that with a story from just this morning. I have a bad habit on Saturday mornings of going down to Blado's. There's still a few donuts left in the box on the counter, but we go through them pretty quickly. I found myself, for those of you who have been to Blado's recently, that there's the ramp now that Saturday morning you're going to wait on the ramp outside. And I found myself this morning waiting on the ramp, patiently waiting to order my dozen donuts, and found myself right in front of me a familiar face, although a face I hadn't seen in, we decided, probably 16 or 17 years. A student I coached here at Winona Senior High School, probably about the same time that Marty or Jay, probably a teammate of one of yours, fit somewhere in those years. So, and we ended up catching up in those 5 minutes that we waited for our donuts. And it's like those 15 years had never lapsed, right? We just picked up the conversation where we had left off as coach and athlete 15 or 16 years ago. And again, to me, that was just a kind of a reinforcement of those connections that are built in these athletic environments. So I'm grateful for that. I want to say a few words about each of our inductees before I turn things back over to Casey. And I want to talk about them maybe in chronological order of how these inductees entered my life. I'm very fortunate to say that 5 out of the 6 I actually had some previous connection with before today. And the 6th, boy, I sure enjoyed getting to meet him about 45 minutes ago. So, we'll get through. They said chronological order. So, Scott Sether is the first I want to mention. Scott doesn't know this, but I grew up about 3 houses away from, where is Scott right now? There he is in back. Scott, I was on Mount Vernon Court, just a couple houses over from where Scott grew up, and not grew up, but at least where his family moved to as they came to Winona. So I'm going to tell you, I'm about 10 years younger than Scott, okay? And some of my first memories of being a Winhawk fan were cheering on those 87 and 88 Winhawk football teams. Scott and Joel Stats and Paul Klinger and the Boone brothers. I mean, that is my memory of being a 7, 8, 9-year-old and looking up to people like Scott Setzer. So Scott probably had no idea I existed before today, but I'll tell you what, I've known he existed since at least 1987. So Scott, great to meet you officially this weekend. The second person I want to mention, John Ruckberg. John was a teacher for me first and foremost. I sat in Mr. Ruckberg's Math Society class as a junior here at Winona Senior High School. And when I have those moments to reflect on who were those influential teachers in my life, at the top of that list every time is Mr. Ruckberg. And I'm grateful that I'm able to call him a mentor in my life. I was very, very fortunate. To some extent, I feel like I owe John credit for the first teaching job I had. He retired. Guess what? I was in the right place at the right time. I got hired and stepped into room 206 and tried to fill those big shoes that Coach Ruckberg had filled for a number of years. And the other piece I just want to mention about John is grateful for all of the, not only students he's mentored as in an academic setting, in an athletic setting, but also as he's prepared future educators as well. Just grateful for the role that John has played in that respect. Brian Lipinski. So Brian I actually got to know first through his brother. I was sandwiched between two Lipinskis as a student athlete here at Winona High myself. And so my sophomore year would have been Mike's senior year, and still remember, we played the same positions on the football field. We were wide receivers and we were cornerbacks, so we spent a lot of time together in those practices, and Brian quickly showed that he had the same skill set that his brother had, not only on the football field, but on the tennis court as well. So I got to see, like I said, two Lipinskis in action on either side of me as a student athlete coming up through Winona Senior High School. Let's see, I guess that would take me to Chris Stefanik. So I started, I already alluded to, I was able to start here as a teacher in 2004. And Chris was a great student athlete here for us at that point in time. And the thing that strikes me about Chris is, yes, he was a phenomenal athlete, but he was a great leader. And that's what strikes me about Chris, is seeing how he led on that floor hockey team. Incredible. It's really that memory that sticks for me when I think about who Chris Stefanik is. So Chris, congratulations. And lastly, I said, I knew, no, I'm sorry, not last, Randy, I'm not going to forget about you. Carly is my last connection that I had before today. We're going to say Randy here for a minute. Carly Moran, so Carly, I said to her, sorry, Jay and Marty, the evidence is clear, Carly is the best athlete in the family, but maybe not by too far. I have the benefit of coaching both Jay and Marty on the football field as well, and seeing them play hockey as well, and I mean, just a fantastic family through and through. I enjoyed getting to know the entire Moran family. But Carly, I stepped in as activities director. I don't know, Casey will correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I was in the position for the 2 years before he said, about 2011, 12, somewhere in that neighborhood. So Carly was still up and coming into the program. She was probably an 8th grader, 9th grader in those first couple of years. And I'll admit, I had not been to a lot of girls soccer nor girls hockey games in my life to that point. you get to that activities director position, and now I was coaching football, basketball, and baseball prior to that. All of a sudden, I find myself watching girls' soccer games. I'm watching girls' hockey games, and very evident that, wow, there's somebody out there who moves different than everybody else on that field, or everybody else on that rink. I was amazed at, I think in particular, in hockey, you would see speed that just did not exist anywhere else on that rink. And Carly jumped out at you when you'd watch her compete. Again, no matter what sport it was that she was participating in. And then, 45 minutes ago, I met Randy Mueller. And I'll tell you what, we immediately found several connections that we have with one another. I listened to Randy's introduction last night at the football game, and football, basketball, baseball. Again, I made that connection with him right away, and said that was my existence growing up too. Those were the sports that I found myself drawn to. And then again, as I just mentioned, as a coach, having those three sports. But this morning, just learned that we probably have family trees that crisscross. We talked about family in the heart and Rushford areas. I said, when I look at my family tree, the Landers and the Elfmans and my family, they were married and buried in Hart and Wilson, and so it's a small world is the point. And then we go on to discover, I discovered Randy's dad, Ev Mueller, was in an assistant superintendent position here for a number of years as well. Just those connections between, across time and space, right? That tie us together. And I think that comes back to that notion of connection and community. So, congratulations again to each of our 6 inductees. And just a word of thanks as well to our Hall of Fame committee, several of them seated over to the side here. Like I said, I was involved with this committee for a number of years, and I can tell you that a lot goes into getting to this day where we're able to kind of publicly shine the spotlight on some great win-offs. And so thanks to the committee membership as well. And with that, I'm going to turn things back over to Casey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brzezinski. Before we get started with the introductions here, I just want to give everyone kind of an idea of how this is going to work. We are going to go alphabetical, so we're not surprising anyone here. But I will introduce the presenter, and then the presenter will say a few words and then bring in the inductee. And then once the inductee's over, I will have a plaque that we will present to them. It's the same plaque that is up on our Hall of Fame wall on the stage. So, without any more interruption, first up will be Brian Lipinski, introduced by Kathy Sullivan.
This is going to work. But anyway, I'm well enough. I can't tell you how excited I am to introduce Brian. Most of you don't know this, but I've been tennis connected with Brian and his family since I'm pretty sure Brian was born. He comes by his tennis talent quite naturally. His Aunt Julie played on my 1978 girls state runner-up team. His brother Mike was an outstanding tennis player for the Windhawks under the one and only J.P. Richards. And I'm pretty sure that both of those boys were born with tennis rackets in their hands. And I'm going to tell you a little story about Mike because I know that Brian probably did the same thing. But when my girls' tennis teams were getting quite good, even after the 78 team, I decided I better bone up on my tennis skills. So I took a class at Winona State one summer. And the instructor says, you need to be playing between classes. So if you need somebody to play with, there is always somebody on the tennis courts over at Winona State. So one day after class, I go out to the courts, and I'm looking around for somebody to play with, and I hear this knocking on the backboard, and all it is this little kid with a racket. And I am like, okay, I said, do you want to hit? He stops, takes his racket down, it comes to his armpit, And he goes, you mean rally? And I was like, okay, I've just been pulled by a fighter. One of my girls' tennis teams, with a chance to go to state, needed someone to challenge them. By then, Mike and Brian had built quite impressive tennis reputations. Brian was what, about 10 at the time? Well, Mike wasn't available, so I asked Brian to come pick with my girls after school. They needed a challenge, and the kid had a talent. Fast forward to Brian's high school career. When I signed on to be the boys' assistant coach, the team had some conditions for having a female coach. I needed to learn to do seeds. Like seeds? Yeah, you know, sunflower seed, you put a handful in your mouth, you switch them around, get the salt off, break them with your teeth, eat the seed, and spit. I got it done one seed at a time, but I could do it. The second was that I didn't embarrass it. I got the seeds right. When we needed someone to challenge Brian and his team, we signed Micah to assist. It was a thrill to watch the two of them play. They gave no quarter, and I think it was the real I Want to Be Mike story. Brian always seemed to love the game. He had a great sense of humor and could do wonders with a tennis ball and racket. He was quick, he could make shots that most people never thought of, and many times an opponent would think they had won the point, and somehow Brian would get to the ball and return it for a winner, and they were like, wait, what just happened? Brian was a great leader and inspiration to his team. It was so exciting to see he and his teammates become the first Winona Senior High School boys team to get to state. Brian's individual record stands for itself. He did Winona Senior High School proud, going on to be a standout player for the Minnesota Gophers. I can't speak to Brian's football career, but I'm betting having an older brother to challenge him in everything helped him make him the player that he was. His 2 all-conference nods, I'm betting, were because he was quick, because of his quickness and speed. And I always know how much effort Brian always put into his sports. I'm so very proud of the man you have become, and I am so honored to introduce Brian Lipinski to all of you and to the hall.
So thank you so much for having me here. It's a very big honor. I take it very seriously. So, also, congratulations to the other inductees that have made it today. So, I'll start off with thanking my high school tennis staff. Solely, obviously you were there. My greatest memory of a team sport was making it to state my senior year. That was not even trump my individual achievements. That was a huge deal for Winona tennis, Winona Senior High. So never forget those memories of us beating Mayo in the final to finally win the state. My son was at the Mayo football game when we lived in Rochester. It was hard for me to buy him a Mayo sweatshirt, but still tough. You don't realize how much time coaching takes, from people's families and all the effort and the hours. So with me having kids now, you understand. You understand that these coaches take a lot of their day, of their family, and their time, especially after a long day of teaching. Also, many of the teachers and coaches. So you'll never forget. You'll relate to this. That the one point at a time, like I didn't remember, and I always used to say. Easy for her to say, I'm over here, she's sitting over there. But thank you so much. John Thomas, he's actually from Cotter, he's in the back there in attendance. He was probably the one other guy that I played more sets with, or second guy I played more sets with other than my brother. So he would call, I'd call him, and he would rarely say no to hit with me. He was 3 years older than I, so when he had his license, it worked out very well for me. So he picked me up, so I didn't have to ride my bike. My parents were at work, and we played, I think one summer we played almost every day. It was literally almost every day at 9 o'clock, so. And we just wanted to play. That's what we went out there. It wasn't about who won or lost. We just wanted to compete and play tennis. So, thank you, John. Thanks for being here, man. So, Jeff Hellberg, he was more of my personal coach. He's up here. Jeff created the Winona Dynasty Tennis. That was, he started it all. He gave lessons to me and my brother and many other young talent in Winona at that time. And he created what we call the Winona Travel Team. So he traveled tournament to tournament every summer. I think we went to about 5 or 6 tournaments. And we took 3 or 4 cars up to the cities and we played tournaments. And it was amazing. I think at one time we had 20 kids going up to these tournaments every summer. So again, he took time out of his family. It was a lot of hours, a lot of late nights from the tennis courts, getting up at 6 in the morning. I remember driving from his in-laws' house to the tournaments and dragging us out of bed. I still remember, guys, time to get up, time to get up. We didn't want to get up. He got us up. So he also helped me in my junior year get a recruiting letter set up for some schools. Now, I did have an idea that Dave Getz, the Minnesota coach, wasn't going to contact me, but Jeff did help me with that. I think we stayed in front of Coach Getz, the University of Minnesota coach, and I got to play Division I tennis at the University of Minnesota, which was, I remember my first month there, I said, can I really do this? When do I sleep? It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, other than maybe my kids so far. But I'm so glad I did it. It was an amazing experience. Graduated from a great college with a great degree, and so thank you so much, Jeff. It's amazing. Also, I'd have to mention St. T's Tennis and Sports. That was the now Winona Tennis Center. That was built in 1991. Bob Kierland built that tennis center. 6 indoor courts with the best viewing that I've seen in the state. I don't think without those indoor tennis courts that playing tennis would have been as easy as it was with the winters we had. So, Joni Jacobson was managing that club at the time, and I remember when I turned 16, her interview was for me, it was, you're gonna work here, right? That was our interview, and I said, of course I'm gonna work here. So I worked the front desk there, and also taught tennis later, early in my college career there. So that was a big part of my life, playing tennis. They had basketball courts there, a workout center, so, you know, obviously other kids could use it. I think the membership fee was $20 a year for a high school student. It was just unheard of, so that was a huge part that played a role. So, nextly, I'll talk about my parents. My parents is a big part of me playing sports. My dad played football and pretty much anything in season, right? That's what they did. So, I remember one summer, I'll never remember the story. I said, John Thomas remembers this. I said, John, I think I'm gonna play baseball this summer. He looked at me like I was crazy. He goes, what are you doing? My parents didn't blink an eye. They said, do what you want to do, if you want to play baseball. Looking back at it now, I don't know what I was thinking. I probably should have played tennis because but I wanted something different. I wanted to try something different. I played tennis for that summer, or baseball for that summer, traveled along with my parents, and had a great time. Then went back to tennis. So, my mom and dad also did everything financially to get me into groups and lessons. You know, they worked for the city for 35 plus years, and they did anything and everything to get me equipment, lessons, and at one point my dad started traveling with me to tournaments, and I always remember those times. And we always kind of looked at it was Winona versus the Twin Cities. That was the way we looked at it. So that's the way I looked at it, to get motivation, and it worked. So thank you so much, Mom and Dad. Thank you. My brother, which couldn't make it today, but he obviously, I wanted to be just like him, and so he said. So he started tennis. I think my parents got him park and rec tennis lessons to get him out of the house. He has so much energy. Run around the court, go waste your energy, right? But I continued to follow his footsteps in tennis, and I remember he'd take lessons down at the lake courts, and I'd on the backboard. I'd be on the corner of the backboard hitting, and his coach was 1,000 in a row. I got 1,000 in a row. That's the way I learned, was off the backboard. So, and then also football. When Mike started football, I played football. Exactly what Mike did, I did. He wore 34, I wore 34. He played defensive back, I played defensive back. He played punt return, I played punt return. Everything Mike did, I did. because I wanted to be like my brother. So, even graduated with the same degree as he from the University of Minnesota, as he did from Winona State. So, I want to thank Mike, he couldn't make it, but he was a huge part of my sports success. My family, which is in attendance, my wife Jessica has been a nurse at over 15 years at the Mayo Clinic up in Rochester. Griffin, who's 8, and then Henry, who's 5. I want to thank them for listening to my glory days stories at home. Because I still do it. Griffin, I don't know if you believe me all the time, but I said, now do you believe me? And he goes, no. So, unfortunately for them, this gives me more ammunition. But again, my wife, I'm in the car dealership, area right now. My wife takes my kids to all I work late hours, and she takes a lot of time out of their day to take them to their lessons and stuff like that, which I greatly appreciate. At the time when you're a kid, you don't understand. When you have kids, you get it. So, again, I want to thank Winona Senior High for allowing me to be here in this great achievement. And sports as a whole has taught me great life lessons, including in my professional life and my personal life. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brad. Up next is Carly Moran being introduced by Scott Alverson.
Good afternoon, and congratulations to all of today's inductees. It's been a privilege to meet you and hear the stories of your formative years in Winona. Today I have the distinct honor of introducing one of the most accomplished, dedicated, and well-rounded student athletes in Winona Senior High School history. I've had the rare opportunity to witness Carly's journey from several vantage points, as her coach, as her teacher, as a parent to one of her teammates, and finally as a fan. Carly was the kind of athlete you couldn't take your eyes off. She brought electricity to every competition. You watched closely because you knew you were about to witness something very special. She's joined today by her proud family, her parents, Mike and Sally, her fiance Charlie. You guys give a wave to everybody. Yeah. There we go. Marty and Jay, brothers Marty and Jay, along with their wives, Kim and Kara, as well as Carly's nieces and nephews, Coulter, Jameson, Callahan, Shella, Martha, and Rosalie. It's clear that Carly's competitive spirit and athletic talent were shaped up early on by strong role models of her parents and brothers. And knowing Carly's competitiveness, I'm sure that Marty and Jay never took it easy on their little sister. Am I right? Sometimes. Every coach who worked with Carly describes her the same way: unselfish, coachable, fiercely competitive, team first, humble, and driven. She loved being part of a team, and when it was time to work, she was locked in. One of her former teammates put it best: the best leaders don't lead from above, they lead from beside you. That's what Carly meant to every team she was a part of. Carly did something that very few high school athletes can even dream of. She excelled in 5 different varsity sports. She began with 2 seasons of varsity tennis in 7th and 8th grade, and then moved on and made an immediate impact on the field, the soccer field, as a 9th grader. She remained an offensive force through her senior year, tallying 65 goals and 29 assists in just 51 games. Amazing. In track, she qualified for the state meet as a junior, placed 7th, showcasing both grit and natural talent. Her coach, Kurt Keekbush, described her as a grounded, intelligent, and personable individual whose humility makes her success even more meaningful to those around her. As a senior, Carly decided to take on a brand new sport, softball. Coach Miss Grissel and I were amazed at how quickly she picked up the game. In no time, she was performing at a level that rivaled players with many years of experience. That 2014 season marked a turning point for the Winhawk softball program. Carly became a leader by example, and as she has on every team she's been part of. She helped lay the foundation for a decade of team culture defined by effort, focus, and unity. But if there was one place that Carly excelled, and where her impact was truly historical was on the ice. A varsity hockey player since her 7th grade year, Carly went on to become a 6-time All-Big Nine Conference selection. As a junior, she was honorable mention All-State, finishing among the top skaters of Minnesota in both goals and points. She graduated as Winona's all-time leader with 158 goals, 73 assists, 231 total points. By the end of her high school career, she was in the top 10 in all 3 categories in the state of Minnesota. She was especially dangerous on the penalty kill. Windhawk fans will remember her signature move, exploding past defenders, finishing breakaways with cold-blooded precision. When I had my wife read this morning, she made a comment that she said, "Oh, everybody who saw Carly play will remember that. Because the minute Carly touched the puck, everybody in the audience went, because they knew something special was about to happen." Carly continued her hockey career at the University of Wisconsin-River Falls, where she only added to her legacy. All-conference selections for 3 years, 2-time All-American, the 2017-2018 WIAC Player of the Year, top 4 in program history with 84 goals, 73 assists, and that number is wrong, 231 points, but that doesn't add up. And she helped the Falcons to 2 NCAA Frozen Four appearances, finishing 2nd and 3rd nationally in her junior and senior years, I believe it was. And yet, as staggering as those numbers are, they don't define who Carly is. On March 27, 2017, WCCO News aired a story about the U.S. women's hockey team threatened boycott of the World Championships, which were about to begin. They were demanding fair wages and equitable support from the association. Carly and a teammate were contacted by USA Hockey to serve as potential replacement players for that World Championship season. They were being interviewed on WCCO, and they shared that they respectfully declined the invitation, often citing their deep admiration for what the national team members were fighting for. That's who Carly is. That decision to stand in solidarity rather than to step in the spotlight speaks volumes. Coach Gleason often talks about being part of something bigger than yourself. Carly, you have embodied this vision and modeled that for everyone around you in everything you do. As Carly's high school calculus teacher, I can also say that her excellence didn't have a field or the right. She brought that same drive, discipline, and humility into the classroom. After graduating from University of Wisconsin-River Falls, Carly went on to earn her Doctor of Physical Therapy from State Scholastica. Today, she continues to make a difference, this time as a healer, as a professional. It is my great honor, on behalf of the Winona Senior High School, to welcome Carly Moran as a member of the Winona Senior High School.
First off, I would like to thank the Hall of Fame Committee and everyone involved in organizing the camp festivities. And congratulations to the other inductees. I feel very celebrated and honored to be standing here with you all today. A special thank you to Scott Halverson, who was kind enough to introduce me today. I was fortunate enough to have Albie as a math teacher and also a softball coach. His passion and energy is contagious, and I was lucky to get to learn from him on the sports field, but also in the classroom. And thanks for always cutting me some slack when I was late to calculus, I think every single morning.
You were early today.
I have nothing but fond memories when I look back on my high school athletic experiences. Thanks to my amazing coaches, teammates, and the Winona community. I was blessed with the ability to be able to letter in 5 sports, which allowed me to build so many meaningful relationships and learn so many meaningful lessons that I carried with me in my college hockey experience and that I still carry with me today. I would not be standing here today if it wasn't for my family. Thank you to my parents for their unwavering support. They were always there to comfort me after the bad games and to celebrate with me after the good ones. I don't think my parents missed a single one of my sports games, even though my mom spent half the time in the bathroom because she was too nervous to watch. Thank you to my brothers, both of which could easily be standing up here in my place. I think they both hold some sports records as well, Marty's might have been in penalty box minutes, but that still counts. My brothers were amazing athletes and showed me what it meant to be a leader on and off the sports field. They were and are the perfect role models, and I still look up to them in so many ways. Sports were such a huge part of my life growing up and have really shaped me into the person I am today. God blessed me with a passion for competition and athletic abilities to go along with it. To be recognized for it in this way is once again such an honor, and I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Congratulations, Brendan. Next up is Randy Mueller, being introduced by Paul Mueller.
Hello, everybody. Well, first, before I get started, I want you all to take a deep breath in that incredible view. And I was reflecting on that while listening to the winners and inductees about our four founders of Winona High School, and the foresight they had in establishing the school on this beautiful site that those of us who went to school here enjoyed. So, what a tremendous place. Well, likewise, I'd like to thank the organizers, the selection committee, and the athletics department for sponsoring this event. And congratulations to the tremendous inductees. It's really been nice to meet you and learn about your impressive accomplishments. I'd also like to congratulate the Hall of Fame inductees, the families, friends, teachers, coaches, and communities. We know you were instrumental in the inductees' athletic career and their life successes. Behind all champions are people, communities, and others who encourage the athletes to carry on, build resilience, or in the words of Coach Glenn, mental toughness, and hone skills to achieve their potentials. And certain behind all the inductees are people and communities who made their successes possible. I'm Randy's brother, and I have the privilege of nominating him. A year ago, I toured the high school and Hall of Fame gallery with my teacher and coach, John Rutherford. I was a cross country and track, and I had John and Jim as coaches. Scanning the Hall of Fame gallery, though, I commented that someone was missing, a Miller, and especially Randy. Last January, Randy and I, with our wives Nancy and Linda, hiked in Big Bend National Park in Texas, where we now live. We talked about the Hall of Fame and the absence of the Miller, despite our family's substantial and visible engagement in sports and economy. It was then I decided to nominate him. You've seen Randy's biography. It truly is impressive. But let me provide some more context. Our parents, Evan and Marion, are now deceased. Mom would have been a recognized athlete had she had the opportunity available at the time she went to school. Dad was a star athlete at Winona High School. And by the way, Brad, if you have anyone buried in Hart Cemetery, we're related to you. That's our family origin. My dad went on to pitch for Winona State and garnered an impressive winning career over 4 years. He also played summer ball with summer leagues that were in all the little towns in Winona County. Of the few losses my dad had, the most dramatic was a 2-1 loss to a team led by none other than Paul Beal, who along with Jim Flynn was one of the first Hall of Fame inductees. This loss was actually the result of an error. Dad was truly a tremendous advocate of sports, great athlete, and really inspired all of us. Randy and I are 2 of 6 children. Gary, John, who's here, Randy, Chuck, me, and our sister Mary Beth, who's now deceased. Imagine the scene around our dinner table in a small kitchen with 8 people, mom, dad, 6 kids, saying grace and 4 really large boys, very hungry ones. Imagine the grocery bills. Imagine all the food. It was quite the scene. Mom and Dad were educators and encouraged us to participate in a wide array of activities, probably to keep us exhausted. Participation, though, was the key word. I think my dad said that often, and it was really about participating. Notably, he committed 39 years of his life to Minnesota public education, including several decades here in Winona. Collectively, the 6 of us garnered dozens of letters, all conference, most improved, most valuable, and WPO awards, and so on. And we also did well in school and participated in activities beyond sports, such as music, art, church, theater, speech team, science fair, other activities. By the way, Randy is a pretty good artist. We also help out. This is important for our folks to stay engaged, be involved, and be contributors for our community. At home, though, sports were always present. On the TV, radio, the Twins game was always on, the Vikings game, reading Sports Illustrated, reading the sports pages, shooting baskets, playing pickup ball, kick the can, and other games. It could be a really testing event to have the 6 of us around a Risk game, remember that board game Risk? We were competitive, but we enjoyed games. Randy, however, was truly exceptional, and I could say, as the comment that was reflected earlier, you were the best athlete in our family, and that's why we're here today. He achieved success in football, basketball, and baseball, and as a senior was all conference in all 3 sports while graduating in the top 5% of his class. Ben was recruited to play basketball at Bemidji State, where he played all 4 years, and where he met Linda. Both Randy and Linda enjoyed career successes and were blessed with 3 boys, now men, Timothy, Peter, and Ellen, all are here. I commented earlier that the 5 of us would make a good pickup basketball team. All 3 are outstanding athletes, busy with their careers and families. Randy and Linda were strong supporters of youth sports, especially youth hockey and chess. But don't take it just from me. Here are some illustrative quotes from people who know Randy. Coach Jerry Raditz, in the 1975 Winona Hawks baseball guide, said, "One of the best all-around athletes in Hawks history, chosen on all Big 9 teams in football and basketball for 2 years running, and has a good chance of becoming an all-conference performer in baseball," which happened, making him only the 2nd athlete in 8 years to accomplish this feat. Randy is the possessor of very quick hands and one of the strongest arms on the team. Coach Bob Ernest, who's here, said, "What an outstanding student, athlete, person he is," he said was. "Randy had the type of attitude you look for in a student athlete, positive and upbeat. He was a leader on the field and in the locker room, always encouraging and building up his teammates. He was looked at as a winner by his teammates and coaches. He made others wanted to be on the team with him." Teammate Bruce Norton, who's here, said, "Randy was a great 3-sport athlete at Winona High. He exhibited leadership on and off the court with freedom." Classmate Barb Whitstead Spencer, who's here, "Randy played basketball and I was a cheerleader, so I saw all the games. Randy was an exceptional player and I saw firsthand while cheering for all the games. I watched many of the baseball games from the VFW Buddies, won the state championship, and John was on that team, to the games played while in high school. Again, Randy was a great and very dedicated player. Randy was also a very good friend to many, well-liked and smart." I'm much younger than Randy, and I watched a lot of his football, basketball, and baseball games, so I was a fan. What I remember most was his sweet jump shot, achieving a remarkable height and then launching that ball over the defender with a flick of that hand, many of which went through the hoop with a distinctive switch. And from a distance, that would have accounted for quite a few 3-pointers. Congratulations, Randy, and congratulations to Linda, Tim, Peter, Alan, to have been inducted into the Winona Senior High School Athletic Hall of Fame. It's a great honor for you, our parents, Ed and Marion, and to all of our family. So Randy, please come forward.
My thanks to the players, students, coaches, teachers, administrators, parents, and volunteers who make this a special homecoming for me and my fellow Hall of Fame inductees. I am sincerely humbled and honored to be inducted into the Winona Senior High School Athletic Hall of Fame. I'd like to give a special thank you to the following. Brother Paul, for nominating me for his introduction today. Paul, I'm so grateful that you are making this a reality for me. To the Hall of Fame Committee for your due diligence on my nomination and for your acceptance and approval. Thank you. To my fellow inductees, both past and present, I salute you. I am truly honored to join you in the Hall of Fame. And I'm going to go off script here a little bit about Coach Mervis, Dave Mervis. He was one of my best teachers. I learned how to type. He challenged us in typing just to get into the flow of learning how to type. And his challenge was to type 60 words a minute. And I'd like to tell you, I typed 60 something. And when I read that, it made no sense at all. He was a phenomenal teacher. In fact, he was part of the inspiration why I considered strongly the pursuit of business education degree at Technology State. And one other comment on Dave. One of the thankless jobs that he probably never received any thanks for was he was always a scorer at the basketball games. Maybe on other sports too, he would probably have to take the score. And I remember looking at Dave, at a basketball game several times when we weren't doing so good. And he'd give me that little look out of the corner of his eye, kind of smile or wink. And it was very clear the message he was sending without saying a word. And it was inspirational. And he did it from the scorer's table. And, it was truly a great loss. Coach Mervis. To my classmates in 1975, several of which are here. To my teammates, several are here as well. Coaches, teachers, counselors, administrators. And notice I'll say administrators a lot, because my father was an administrator. And all those involved in supporting and encouraging me, not only in athletics, but also in the classroom. I am hopeful that I am a worthy representative of you in the Hall of Fame. To my parents, Everett and Mary Mueller, as Paul mentioned, growing up, my parents instilled in me and my siblings the wisdom that education should always be our top priority. And participation in sports was a privilege reserved for those who excelled in school. There was never any doubt in our family about whether we were going to continue our education post-high school. And I'm really proud of the fact that all of my siblings have always graduated. This is the hard part. To my wife and life partner, Linda, who captured my heart at Winona State 49 years ago. I don't have the words to express my gratitude to you. other than to say that you are my queen. To my 3 sons, Alan, Peter, and Timothy, I am so proud of each of you. I sincerely hope I have provided you with fatherly love and wisdom like my father provided to me. You married amazing life partners, Amanda, Taylor, and Anna. To my grandchildren, Charlie, Everett, Vivian, Judah, Rosie, and Sylvia, you bring Grandma and Grandpa so much joy. To my siblings, Gary, John, Chuck, Paul, and Mary Beth, thank you for putting up with me as we were all trying to find our way at 471 Wayne Street, better known as the house right behind Kentucky Fried Chicken. I gotta diverge a little bit. I'll mention this. Poor mom, I mean, she'd make 2 chickens, all the fixings, everything, and by the time, I mean, it seemed like 10 minutes, there was nothing left. We were down to the bone. And I was the first, probably set a record to be the biggest guest at Kentucky Fried Chicken. I went right there afterwards. I don't know, I probably consumed, I was burning 5,000 calories. I was always hungry. And so were my brothers. A special acknowledgement to my older brother, John. John, you were my role model, my best friend. Love you, man. I was asked to share one memorable Winona High School athletic event, or in general, my experience at Winona Senior High School. I have so many, but this one in particular stands out. It was my senior year in football, and we were playing unbeaten Austin at their homecoming game. We were down 20-8 at halftime. We were not playing very well, and they were unbeaten, and they just were destroying us. It was one of those games that I'm sure the coaching staff was livid with us, and we heard about it at halftime. And we deserved it. They were playing great. Then the second half happened. And I think God Almighty inspired us somehow. Everything changed for us. Everything worked for us. Big plays were made. Bruce Norton here made a big hit, forced a fumble that I recovered. We went down and scored. Mike Worden kicked the extra point, which was a lucky kick at best. Barely made it over to We talked about that at our 50-year reunion. In fact, most of my classmates and teammates remember this game. And we won that game, 28-27. On our way out, our bus got egged. Their fans were demoralized. We were thrilled. But what made that game so memorable was that we truly came together as a team. I know that may sound cliche, but we came together as a team. And I think what made it so special was the seniors that came together. These were my friends. We realized we had accomplished something very special on that Friday night under the lights. Thank you for that experience and memory. Thank you again for this honor. I wish all of you here Godspeed. Thank you.
questions again or anything. This time I'd like to introduce Coach Jim Flynn, who will be introducing Coach Ruggenberg.
It is indeed an honor and a privilege to introduce Coach John Ruggenberg as the newest member of the Wilson Central High School Athletic Hall of Fame. Not only is a Hall of Fame member here, but he's also a Hall of Fame member of the Cross Country Coaches Association as well. Max and I and Jan and John have been colleagues and great friends for the past 55 years. We don't call each other John, we don't call each other Jim, we just call each other Coach. We get to the point in our coaching career that we would open our mouths and the same thing would come out at the same time. That was kind of scary. A few minutes ago, we were talking to Steve Briggs and I said to Steve, is this good scene out here? And Coach said, I just said that. We're still on that same wavelength. In the fall of 1970, both of us were hired to teach in the social studies department at senior high school. I was hired to teach history, was to be the head track and cross country coach, and Coach was going to teach sociology and psychology. When Coach became a member of our track coaching staff, he coached the sprinters and hurdlers. Coach was not your typical sprint and hurdle coach. He had his kids running the hill at Holzinger, he had them running out to St. Mary's, and we coined the phrase for his coaching technique called being rubber-sized. The kids were proud to be rubber-sized. In fact, even had t-shirts made, I have been rubber-sized. But his coaching method was really successful. He produced conference champions, section champions, state meet our participants, and also state meet and school record holders. A few things you may not know about Coach. He coached the first cross-country ski team in 1980, and he became a varsity sport in 1983. Equally as proud of his coaching, Coach started the community service learning class at Winona Senior High, and it became a nationally recognized program and allowed Coach to speak at the at many national conventions. In addition, he also was a speaker at Minnesota Cross Country Coaches Clinics as well. In the fall of 1980, Coach joined our cross-country staff along with Coach Bill Schmidt and Coach Copeland, and we had quite a run. During that time period, we won 20 conference championships, 16 section championships, 23 state appearances, 4 state championship teams, 3 teams that finished second, and 4 teams that finished third. I retired from coaching in 2000, and Coach Ruggenberg became the head coach, the position he held from 2001 to 2009. He kept the tradition going, winning 3 Big Nine Conference championships. His team competed in 4 state meets. He had 5 individuals win Big Nine Conference individual championships. He had 4 individuals who won 7 section individual championships. And he had 3 individual state champions. Garrett Heath in 2002, in 2003, and Elliott in 2005. He was also named the Big Nine Cross Country Coach of the Year 4 times, and Section 1AA Coach of the Year 4 times as well. Don't get me wrong, winning and losing, and wins and losses are important in coaching, but it's not the most important thing. It's the life lessons that we teach that are by far the most important. It's about building relationship and shaping the lives of young people. Coach's coaching philosophy is very simple. Be the best that you can be. Be a better person than a runner. These words and phrases are important in his philosophy, coaching and teaching. Be courteous. Be humble. Have integrity. Have self-control. Have perseverance. Be a person of character. Develop leadership skills. Have an indomitable spirit. And make something day better. When you leave Coach's house, there's a clock on the wall that says "Leave the door." And these are the words that are on the face that he put on his wall clock. Courtesy, humility, integrity, perseverance, and an indomitable spirit. His inspiration will stay with young people for the rest of their lives. Be the best that you can be. One of my favorite poems really applies to Coach, and it goes like this. Isn't it strange that princes and kings, and clowns that caper and sawed strings, and common people like you and me are builders for eternity? Each is given a bag of tools, a shapeless mask, and a book of rules. And each was made ere life is flowing, a stumbling block or a stepping stone. Coach and dear friend, you have built thousands of stepping stones and made the difference in the lives of thousands of young people, both on the field and in the classroom. Ladies and gentlemen, newest member, Coach John Rager.
I love that home. I have friends at home. Anyway, thanks so much, everybody. In the way of most coaches, we sometimes live by the bumper sticker or the phrase or whatever. And my phrase is unspoken gratitude is useless. So thank you again so much. Thanks to the committee. I want to thank my wife, Jan, who is the best thing that ever came out of Moline, even better than John here. As well as our daughter Jennifer and her husband Scott, as well as our grandkids Jana and Justin. So thanks for being here. Thanks to all of you for being here. We certainly had an interesting group of people come through. Yes, I'm the oldest, and I'd like to say some things about Coach Flynn and what he has said. It's true that I followed Coach all the way through. We would give end of the year speeches and awards and so on, and he would go first. I would follow him, and I'd just start crossing all the things that he'd already said before I got to mine, which made the night move a little faster, because having two people that thought alike was an economical way to do things. Our names have always been tied together, and I'm glad of that. Flynn and Rutherford, I think we could have been a law firm. If you were hurt in an accident, or maybe a clothing designer, like that, he knows me like a brother. We've been through thick and thin together, and everyone who calls him a friend or coach is indeed fortunate. His coaching technique was to do the work, not let things go, not to let the things you can control fall to chance, set goals, work from the desired result backwards. And he often said that without goals, everything is simply a wish. Be direct. One of the things that I'm pleased with our team, and I was checking it out with some of the team members that are here today, is we're pretty direct that there'd be no bullying, that everyone had value, be kind, be good to one another. And a few of them were talking about how we were a close-knit team. We were close-knit people. And you don't become close-knit by deciding to have someone be a designated victim or the victim of somebody else's poor sense of humor. We were also a combination, some people have told me, of good cop, bad cop. So if one of us got on someone, the other one would pick that person back up, and so it went. And I was fortunate also to have excellent assistant coaches in pairs, John Goffman, Kelly Skillicorn, Rod Schwartz, Bill Schmidt, Kim Chapman, and two of our coaches today, Jed Reister and Jim Barrich. When I think back on my life in coaching, the first thing that comes to mind was our team's willingness to work hard. I mean, work brutally hard. They loved to tell how tough they had it, and you know what? I'm glad they had that feeling about it, because it was meant to be tough, because it's hard work that gives the experience, no matter what the outcome, it's value. Easy doesn't do it. What's easy we tend to shrug off as useless. The teams were told running is what you do, but it's not all that you do. Being a runner is who you are, but it's not all that you are. I was pleased that so many of our runners were also involved in other activities beyond sports. Coaches tend to be honored because of the best performances that their athletes have demonstrated, and while we have had some of the very best, we've also had some of the very slowest. I mean, it's great to be honored, but I'm glad to be honored oftentimes. I'm glad that Flynn and Ruggerberg were people that knew everybody on the team and gave them all a bit of ourselves, and as well as our assistant coaches were excellent in that sort of thing. So while we may have had some of the runners who were the best in the state and later on best in the country, and to that extent and beyond best in the world, we also do not forget those whose effort defined who they were. I believe a school-based activity such as ours needs to have a set of values that guide, define, and promote growth. This is, after all, about school, not just a pastime. Now, many people may assume that the emphasis should be on the winning, the simple wins and losses, because those are easy to tabulate. Their times, their places, and so on. It would be so much better if it was more than that. I hope it's more than that. The trap and the focus on winning and losing is that the focus becomes too narrow, that other things of great value can be missed, and fast times are relatively temporary. The finishes measured by their times, I remember talking about this with runners, are just a small part of who they are. Even performances of our most elite runners are written in sand. I can't remember their times, and I'm starting to smile now because I know there's a set of parents who are waiting to hear this. I can't always remember their times, but I remember the kind of people that they are and when they were runners here. I mentioned there needs to be a set of values, and I've thought about this often. I've robbed some of these from other places, actually one of the tennis and taekwondo, but that I think help define success. Courtesy, humility, integrity, perseverance, self-control, gratitude, service, and without empathy, none of them mean much of anything. Without perseverance, without empathy is probably a formula for a very focused serial killer. These things are hard to measure, but they're apparent when they are missing. I'm not so much a sports fan as I am a sportsmanship fan. And one of the things that always pleased me about our runners is they were sportsmen. And Coach Flynn started this with, I think, when he started referring to our runners as gentlemen. Actually, that could be just the beginning of the chilling, but it also is the way he felt about people. And ladies, gentlemen, get on the bus. Anyway. These things are hard to measure, but they're apparent. I think that when I see the courtesy of our teams when they meet and greet other teams when they arrive on the field, the courtesy that they've shown to the host schools when they thank them for hosting a meet, the humility and perseverance. You know, one of the things that happened, and you might consider this a small thing, but I thought it was a big thing. When we would go to someplace to eat after a meet, the rule was always make that place cleaner than it was when you came there. It got to the point where there was, I think, a McDonald's in Rochester. Look forward to it because it was always clean. We cleaned the place up. I remember a former runner who told me he thinks about CC almost every day. And I know that I do. Times when performances are recorded, but a legacy is written in people. In fact, if you think about it, prayers are answered with people. Now, there's a poem that I used to send out to graduates from time to time. And I know, again, there's one here that can remember it. Some of you can too, I'm sure. Have you ever seen the card that it's just entitled If? You know, it starts out, if you can stay the course when life's temptations, and it goes on and on. Well, here's my take on this, and this will be my wrap. If you looked inside yourself and that you knew that you might fail, but gave it everything, you were brave. If you gain friendships that are strong because you persevered together, then they will last and they are gold. If you helped and wished for the best in others, then those people will be unforgettable. If the experience has made you successful, if the experience has been successful, there should be occurrences of personal growth that occurred, not just a physical performance. And now, if you can handle setbacks and not be crushed, if you can be successful and realize that the success is not yours alone, if you can look inside yourself and find something worthy to give to others, if you can look outside yourself and know that there too lies strength, then what you have gotten from this experience equals what was given. The purpose of life is not to be happy, it's to be useful, it's to be honorable, it's to be compassionate, and it's to make a positive difference. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Coach. This time, I would like to introduce Bill Schmidt, who will be speaking on behalf of Scott Seven.
Scott Sether, son of Don and Karen, was born in Fargo, North Dakota, spent his early childhood in Valley City, North Dakota, and Wetumpka, Iowa before arriving in Winona as a seventh grader along with his sisters Jill and Robin. Scott was long and lean with a big frame and a big heart, but did not have a competitive nature as a young kid. Sister Robin had a boyfriend by the name of Mike Beer, a Winona State football player, who talked him into going out for junior high football. Scott explained that when football season was over, he kind of turned into a couch potato. Mike encouraged Scott to go out for another sport, employing a variety of techniques. Normally it was a full-on attack. Every time he and Robin came over to the Sether house, saw Scott sitting on the couch watching TV. Mike told him, "You need to get your butt out for wrestling." Well, Scott decided to wrestle mainly for self-defense, but also went out for track and field where he threw shot and disc. As Seth continued to grow into his body, he became a force in football, wrestling, and track and field. And whether it was football, wrestling, or track season, practice or competition, Scott was all in. He came to practice with intent to get better every day and was a beast when it came to competition. But when the game or meet was over, Seth was a humble winner and a gracious loser. His parents taught him to give 100% in class as well as the athletic arena, but always respect your coaches, teammates, as well as your opponents and officials. Don Cloggy will tell you that Don and Karen were awesome parents and people. Don Sether often told me that he didn't know much about wrestling, but he would be willing to help out and support the program in any way he could. And he really appreciated everything that we were doing for Scott. He believed that athletics were huge in developing character in young people, and saw the transformation in Scott from a big, somewhat lazy kid to a hard-working, focused young man. Fast forward to Scott's senior season in wrestling. Mike Beer came in to work out with us during Christmas vacation. And I can't really do that anymore, but he was about the same size as Seth. So they worked out for most of the practice, including some live wrestling at the end of the workout. Scott was wearing Mike down, threw him a few times, and gave him a pretty good thrashing. After the practice was over, Mike's hand began swelling up. Went to the emergency room to get an x-ray. Sure enough, he broke a bone in his hand. But the kicker was that he and Robin had plans to meet with their pastor to discuss wedding plans that evening. And Mike was instructed to keep his hand iced and elevated, so the whole time they spoke with the preacher, Mike was holding his hand up in the ice-wrapped hand up in the air. Scott figured it was payback for all the couch beatings he took in junior high. Score settled. But Scott was blown away when Mike and Robin named their firstborn son Seth. Scott was all about the team. not only in football, but in wrestling as well as track and field. Scott was a two-time individual state qualifier, but his greatest thrills in wrestling came with big wins. We had some pretty solid bookends with Danny Draz at 103 and Seth at heavyweight, and some outstanding wrestlers sprinkled through the lineup. Scott did not often take the mat with the meat on the line, but when he did, it was pure adrenaline. We wrestled Apple Valley, a perennial state power, in the semifinals of the region team tournament in Scott's senior season. Match came down to heavyweight, but we were down by 5 points and needed a pin to win. Scott was ranked in state, but so was the Apple Valley heavyweight by the name of Olderding. Scott had one thing on his mind: pin Olderding. He didn't care much about the score or what happened in the match. He just had to put Olderding on his back and stick him. Within the first minute of the match, Seth took Olderding down, put him flat on his back. The crowd was going wild, and I was trying to keep the wrestlers off the mat. Somehow, Olderding got off his back after about 45 seconds, and the crowd let out a big sigh. If you ask Joe Hoylman about that match, he'll tell you there are still permanent dents left in the mat where Olderding's shoulder blades were planted. In the second period, Scott had Olderding on his back again, and the crowd came back to life. But somehow, Olderding got off his back, and for the rest of the match, Scott did everything in his power to turn Olderding, but both wrestlers were getting really slippery from sweat. Olderding was not going to do anything but stall and stay on his back. Scott had to settle for a 14-3 win, but Apple Valley won the meet. As Scott came off the mat, he was completely dejected after dominating an outstanding wrestler. He wanted more than anything to win that meet for his teammates. Seth was all about the team. Seth not only has a big frame, but a big heart. He misses his dad who passed away a few years back, and his mom really wanted to be here, but she lives in St. Louis and just couldn't make the trip. Scott and his son Zach support each other in this world and beyond, and both feel blessed to have each other in their lives. A few years ago, Zach attended the Augsburg wrestling camp, and Scott knew I was helping with the camp, so he asked me if I could find some time to get Zach into the weight room and maybe do some sprints each day as he was getting ready for football season. We were able to get together every morning, and Zach did a great job. On the last day of camp, Scott came to watch the final round of our dual meet tournament before picking Zach up, and a couple of Augsburg wrestlers came up to me and said, "Coach Schmidt, there's a big guy out in the hallway, and he said his son is at this camp and he wants to talk to you. He looks mad, and he's huge. And scary. If you want us to go with you for protection, we have it." I said, "Thanks, but I think I know who that is. I'm pretty sure I'll be okay." With that, I'd like to introduce the newest member of the Winona High Athletic Hall of Fame, Scott Sether.
Yeah, Olderding. And funny in life when you get older. There are things you remember, but why do you remember them? It's because it was a great time, terrible time, funny, cringy, but there's reasons why. And one thing with Olderding was that they took a photo. I was on top of him. He was 6'6", 275. So my head was actually right near his neck. But the photo was him on his back. It looked like it was a PG-13 movie, a romantic scene. Front page of paper. But yeah, very honored that you took time to put me into this, to remember me. And it's kind of great because you come back here, God, the memories are flooding back in. And it's really giving it back because it's what really made you who you are. Because when you're young, that's when you learn. That's when you cut your teeth on things. And literally, I don't know, I want to say thank you. And for the whole of you, everybody put this together, it's a fantastic job. We can talk about the view all you want, which is fantastic. But this is so nice. My son in Burnsville, as we were talking last night, and we're talking about how nice this was, this and that. He's like, Burnsville, listen to this. And you gotta look at it that way, because when you hold something precious as the past, the future's blessed. So, I mean, thank you for that. Yeah, back in high school, I was meatheaded. You pick up a brochure, I'm the person snarling in the front. That's what I wanted to be. I'm not sure that's exactly what I was, but I tried hard and I think I did well. Making others believe that. I would bleed black and orange. And I was, you don't know this, I was hurt many, many times. Many, many times. Times I could always ask me, and I always felt really bad for the person putting on that mask. You don't have to be, because I'm a sweaty Betty. But as I go through and thinking about who I want to thank, it's hard because there's so many. Because even from the smallest words of wisdom, builds a person to who they are. But I'm going to do it quickly, but literally, I want to talk first about my dad. He's not here. You're going to see tears. Because he was a good man. But it's funny because he was not the athlete. But my dad would do anything for me. The biggest thing possible. And he's been gone now for about 7 years. And even now as I get older, sometimes I can do some more. Because I'm starting to see some of the things he went through, but what he gave to me as I was younger. You didn't know my dad, but you were in the stand. He was the guy with the cow tongue. Yeah, nobody liked it. What else is my mom? My mom kind of held the family always together. And then on the flip side, she was actually national champion in twirling back in California in her youth. So that's actually where the athleticism came from. But she would hold my dad on the rails, and my dad would make my mom more fun, and so it was a good marriage that way. But the biggest concern of my parents is that literally, when my junior year, they went and bought a custom van. They wanted to see every day. They did almost in high school for sure. But even when I was at Iowa, they went to every single game I was in. And it was like great parents, and they could be corny, they could be cringy, but they're mine. I also had a couple sisters, won't go into deep, but Robin was a really good friend of mine. Obviously Mike, yes, I did break his hand, yes, he did deserve it. He beat me up mercilessly multiple times. I remember him coming to church one time, he grabbed me, threw me down, bit me in a pretzel, my pants split. I cried, ran in my room. He had it coming, folks. No. But what he did do, he motivated me. And when we saw the story, the Little League, like to get better at defensive line, we went outside Slater Hall, Winona State, we did a swim technique, 100 each on the side, over and over and over. They reached my guy scholarship, pass rush, and he was a good man. Jill, my sister, we actually weren't that close in high school. But Jill now takes care of my mom. It's amazing that comes around. And I gave her a kidney. Maybe she feels like she should do that. I don't know. No, but I mean, that's great. And I have to honor her for that. The biggest person in my life is my son's dad. He might see tears because literally, I'm blessed. It's my best friend. Troubling times we've both been through, but I could always count on him being with me. And one of the reasons I coached about 7 years at Burnsville, because I wanted to be closer to him. I enjoyed coaching, but it was just about being closer to my son. And because of that, through that, I found the best job I ever could possibly have. Grandfather in Zaxton Harrison. And I love that job. But my son never lived with me. And it's nice to have that kind of a bond. Funny enough, it's not one of those things where you forget the father-son thing because you're too good of friends. We have both. But I love my son. Thank you. And your kid's great. He's big. He's into football, baseball, and he's mean. So, karma back to you. I also think you stay centered because you gotta have God. And I'm not a huge religious buff, but I'm gonna tell you, you just gotta get your God at times in life you need it. Hopefully it's all the time. My parents sent a lot of athletes in action, wrestling camps, great wrestlers, but with God involved. No matter what, there are times you should be living upstairs instead of living into yourself. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. But literally, that was always a good thing to always have in those darkest moments. Now, thinking coaches-wise, that man, Coach Ernest, was a very good coach. And the best part of it was, because it was kind of a Cinderella story, going out, you know, my junior year, those seniors, we went to the Dome. But he was, you couldn't, you got excited for it, but you didn't know, if you get too excited, because you could crash in town at any moment. Do you remember when the Stillwater game? We drove by to Parade Stadium by the Dome. The Dome was where the final was going to be at. It was hushed as we were driving by before the game. Because you didn't want to get too excited for that kid. You could take it away. Coming back, same route, seeing the Dome, freaking out, loving it. Like, we're going to play there. It was such a big deal. And as good as Coach C is as far as football and techniques and stuff like that, I saw the true Coach Ernest after we lost 13-7. Nobody told us air doesn't move in the Metrodome. It's stagnant down there, or at least it was. It was really hard. And it was a hard-fought game, but after that game, we went to like Italian restaurant or something. Now, we only had 35 guys on the roster. In comparison, everybody else had 100, 120. I mean, it was such a weird thing. There was like 8, 9 guys going both ways. And literally, Coach had this, we're at the Italian restaurant and we're empty. This is all he wanted. It's hard being the Cinderella and the slipper doesn't fit. And he literally, he's like, oh, so close. He made that dinner so special. And I, to this day, I can remember, he started passing out the medals because all the players get the medal. But he had a huge sack left because we had 35 guys. And so literally, he started passing them out like poker chips. To this day, I still remember 4 of our bus driver getting a medal. And he's probably wearing it right now. So literally, but that was really cool because we were empty. And he made it seem okay. We're gonna be fine. Can you imagine how he felt? We didn't ask that much. He took responsibility to take care of us. That's who he is. You know, there's also Bart Henderson, rest in peace, literally, remember him, 52 Smash Mouth football. Yep, you know. There's also Coach Brunner. Coach Brunner was also my track coach. And the best story I can tell about it was literally, I'm in the Big Night Championship, I'm throwing shots in second place, at 1 throw left. Coach comes up to me and says, hey, I'll buy you a steak dinner. You win this. Oh, sure enough. But literally, it's so funny because I remember after that, his wife was the girls' coach. And she's like, oh, you can't be, that's terrible. You're being a player to win. And I told him, Coach, really, you don't need to do that. You know what? That was one of the best tasting steaks I had. I got over it. But I mean, it was fun that way. I also have to do about Don Clog. You know, if you're watching, no, he wasn't a coach, but he put the infrastructure around us. And he was always a person that would give words of wisdom quietly to make sure he stayed within the guardrails. And I appreciate that because there's a side of me that should be in jail right now. Just kidding. But I also bring up also Bill in jail. Why did I bring up both? Because literally, it's how they work together. Bill is an incredible wrestling coach. Nicest guy you'll ever meet. Now, that sounds great, except when he's working your tail off, and he's also extremely nice. It's hard to hate the man, okay? But literally, it was always so nice because he would temper it down when I get really meathead going, you know. And he'd also bring you up when you're feeling really bad. Because wrestling's one of the worst sports. When you lose, you get beat up. Like physically, really get beat up. And so you feel even worse. It's not a point spread, it's a bruise. It's for his shoulder or something like that. But he was always so good to me, so good to my family. And then Jill, we had a family outside of our families. So if you had a good family, great. There's another one. If you had a broken family, there was one. That was huge for wrestlers. Thank you. I mean, literally, they were a great example of what a good marriage is. And I know she's in charge. There are other coaches, but those are the ones I wanted to highlight. And quick, these are some teammates that are fantastic. You know, the thing about the teammates that we were best friends. But the things we used to do. Joe, do you remember going to Mississippi? Still had that boat, flat bottom boat. We go out in sandbars for the night. We go skiing and stuff, but you did things together. And you had each other's backs. Ricky Avick, rest his soul. You know, Travis Brotto, Phil Deacon, Jay Phil. There's all these guys that were so important to you. But literally, they were great people, but they were competitors. But they were your friends first. Steve, saw you today, but yeah, those times you used to come on with weightlifters in like track, talk to the crowd, you know, in people's faces, but you kept the fun going on. It means people like you that are friends-wise, but that's what Winona was. No, we're not the biggest city in the world. No, we don't have a pipeline of all these D1s coming out. They're having some. But on the flip side, your friends were your teammates, and your teammates were your friends. And that was awesome. I also, in closing, want to thank Winona. You know, I moved here in 7th grade. So if you think about it, going into that junior year where my junior year got exciting with football, I was only here 4 years before that. I wasn't a local, but it took off. And also, you know, people talk about how beautiful it is, which it is, all right? There are things that are so, that's Winona, that's why. The store they had that literally hung back from the loss in the dome. So the fire truck, we're gonna do a parade. Nobody's ever done these things before. We got out there and literally got on a fire truck, me being me, got up on top, crossing the arms like something big and bad, but literally, we turn the corner, there's nobody there. And I still to this day, I remember Joel Stats going, uh-oh, nobody wanted to come. And that fear came through because we lost. And we turned one more time. Everybody was everywhere, yelling for us and cheering. They had those orange Herky Yankees, the Herky Yankees, but also the ones on the paper. Put them up. They're proud of us. And God, I felt good. That's Winona. Now, I don't know if you know this too, though. Talking about beauty, Garden Heights. Walk down, there's a path to the left, and walking down the Garden Heights. It's out on top of rock. Joey, do you remember this place? I call it Settlers Rock. I hope it's stuck. But literally, you go out and just look at the beauty at night. So I work at Bridgman's, or if we do something, we come up there, go up to Garden Heights, just look it over. Before social media, before we had to post it, we just enjoyed it. And again, Winona's special. That's Winona. You know, you think about what you learned. I'm not saying this as an old guy talking to young people, because I learned as you get old, you still got to figure stuff out. There's still things that are hard in life, but that's what makes it interesting. I would say just a couple things. Be bold. Fortune favors the bold. It's not about being arrogant, but it's about taking a risk. I also think that in athletics, a lot of times, you have to realize that respect is earned, grace is given. Stop demanding respect, you can't even give grace. It's a huge distinction that's very hard to learn, but that is superior when it comes to mentality. Also laugh. I like to laugh. My son likes to laugh. Having a good time. You always laugh and everything's going great. No, in fact, sometimes the funniest things are going terrible. Like, wow, this day gonna get any worse. I was wrong, you know. That's what happens. Just laugh. Because laughing always is in partnership with loving. And loving is what really matters. When I was closing, this is twice now. I spoke at it was just late my senior year, and I spoke at, motivational letterman thing, whatever it was during the year fall. And my dad gave me a cartoon, but it had a very cool message on it. And he talked to me about it, and I'd like to share that with you. This is in accordance to being, it's about happiness. And what you picture this, a non-athletic person who's got a wooden leg, sitting there, pondering. And he goes, I'm thankful for the one good leg I have. To limp is no disgrace. Even though I cannot win, I can still compete in the race. It's not what you cannot do that makes you what you are. Happiness comes with doing the best of what you got, and that will light the morning star. Thank you, Winona. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Scott. And I will say, I hadn't been at school all week, but I was here Thursday and Friday during the lunch line, just kind of watching. And your Hall of Fame plaque has seemed to become a fan favorite with the student athletes. If you haven't gone down there to see it, please make sure you go see it. All right, last and certainly not least, our final candidate, inductee for the Winona Senior High School Hall of Fame is Chris Stepman. He'll be introduced by his coaches, Rod Schwartz, Chuck Schulmeyer, Bob Ernest, and Bart Lee.
No, I think the guy that you go first, the guy that started our program, that's Bart. And Bart is in the cities now, he is in Minnetonka, family lives in Winona. And because of Bart, we got the athlete floor hockey. Bart, you're up.
This is just an honor of a lifetime to be here. Chris, over the past few months, has been texting us a lot, asking for statistics and how many assists he had in this game or that game, because he knew what an honor this was, and he wanted us to know that he truly belongs among these tremendous athletes here today. But I think these guys will probably talk to about his character, but I kind of dug into some of his statistics and what he accomplished on the floor hockey floor. And Chris, as a seventh grader, we kind of struggled as a team, but we had some momentum at the end of the year, and we had dreams of going to the state tournament. And in the section finals, Chris had a hat trick. And we won that game over Owatonna and went to the state tournament, and that was the first of 6 state tournaments for the Winona floor hockey team. Chris went on to lead Winona to 6 straight state tournaments. He also was, he finished state champions. I left at that point. These guys have a much better record than I did when I was coaching, but they went on to 2 state championships, runner-up once, 3rd place once. Chris was all-state his junior and senior year. So he was a tremendous athlete, and I think these guys will also talk about what a tremendous person Chris Stepman is.
I had the good fortune of being the head football coach at Winona High for 17 years. Tremendous experience, and when I decided that I had enough of the football, or maybe football had enough of me, I had a chance to work with the adaptive floor hockey. And thanks for Bart and Don Plocky and Jane Habeck for getting this program going. But it was about time that we had the opportunity for kids to be a part of the Winona High Athletics, where they can earn a letter and put it on their jacket. I mean, you probably saw Chris at the game last night. He's got old sleeves covered with bars and everything from the adaptive floor hockey. But I've been probably more of a friend to Chris now since he's been out of school. We go to Winona State practices and we sit up there and Chris has to always tell the wearers, you know, you can't do that, you can't do that. And he's sort of a coach over there of that Winona State team. But when I had the opportunity to take it over, I coached 3 years. And the 3 years that I had it, we were state champs, we were second, and we were third. And I tell people that when we were state champs, we were really world champs. Because Minnesota is the only state in the union that has adaptive athletics. Nobody in the world has it. So hell, we were world champs. Good job. Driving the fire truck, and when our kids were coming back from the state tournament, I had a good friend who was from Lake City, and he said, Bob, I'm going to call the fire department here in Lake City, and when you get to the edge, the police are going to lead you through town. And so our kids were so excited, and the sirens and the lights were going. But it was a fantastic experience. Chris, big part of that, 6-year player on the team, loved to play. And I think that's what kids need to do today, is play more. And he loved helping other kids and didn't like to lose, but who does, I guess. But Chris, I want to congratulate you. And you're very deserving of being in the Winona High Hall of Fame. Thank you.
When I think of Chris, there's 4 traits that come to mind. The first one being a love for the game. 6 years he played on the floor hockey team, so that speaks for itself. Second and third trait is intensity and focus. Chris was so intense and so focused when he played. There were times that he accidentally would maybe knock over a player from another team. Now when that one of our own players. Which brings me to trait number 4, which is character. When that would happen, Chris would not beat his chest, hump his arm like he really did something. Chris would take his gloves off, put his stick down, help the other person up, pat him on the back, and apologize. Which brings me to the 4th trait of caring. This is one of the most caring, considerate young people I've ever been around. He was caring from the time we played athletics, and if you ask anybody about Chris, he's one of the most caring people to this day. Chris, well deserved. Congrats.
Just wanted to quickly congratulate all the inductees today. Some I had in 8th grade, some I coached with, some I was a teammate with. It was really special hearing all of your stories. So thank you. Yeah, I kind of came in when Chris was a senior, so my job was not to screw him up. These guys did all the work, along with, you mentioned Jimmy Habeck. Jim Yank was another individual that helped Chris along, Mr. Hockey, right? And one other name we haven't mentioned is Kara Welch, who's an EA at the middle school. And I think you'd agree, without her, the program would have been run a lot differently, because we had a lot of road trips, and road trips for us, Owatonna was the only other school in the Big Nine that had a floor hockey team. So when we went on the road, we went to St. Cloud, we went to, Maple Grove, Anoka, Coon Rapids, and she kind of ran the show for us, so a big thank you to her too. Yeah, they kind of said, what I have on my little note card here, Chris was such a hard worker. I can't believe, I coached some other sports as well. And Chris was always the first one there, he was the last one to leave. We had boards we had to set up, he'd be setting them up. We had to take them down, he'd be taking them down. He'd grab the biggest bags of equipment and help us. And like Chuck mentioned, as far as intensity, very intense individual. Kind of edgy sometimes, but you coaches out there, those are the guys, the players you want on your side. And you athletes out there can vouch for that as well. But it never crossed the line. And there were a lot of, in the sport of floor hockey, there were a lot of players with a lot of different abilities. And he was always kind, he was always courteous, he always played, I think it was Scott or whoever mentioned it, as far as playing with grace and intensity and sportsmanship, that epitomizes Chris right here. Always helped our younger players along, because we had 7th graders on the team as well. When he was a 7th grader, a lot of older kids helped him. He did the same for our younger players. And we had some pretty intense practices. We went at each other pretty hard. And the younger kids, he didn't show any mercy on them, but that was his way of teaching, and he always did it in an appropriate manner. So he's kind of the face of Winona floor hockey. Without question. We had so many wonderful players, and I think it was Coach Rugboard that mentioned, you remember all your players. Whether they score goals, they don't score goals, but that's irrelevant. They were all important. And but he was the one that I think that, like, it was the typical face of floor hockey. And Chris, congratulations for all your hard work.
I really appreciate this Hall of Fame award. Here's truly a dream come true. It was a great part to be a part. Here's a great part to be a captain team. Now this would be happening. It was for my great determined teammates and my great determined coaching staff. I would like to give a special thanks to the Hall of Fame committee, Bart Meath, Chuck Schulmeyer, Mr. Hockey, Jimmy, Wild Sports, Bob Ernest, and all the associates and people and organizers and during the time and at first to the Florida team in the first place, possibly in the first place, just messed up. It was the proudest time of my life. Bringing home 2 state championships. The friendship we formed during that time was unforgettable. I will never forget stopping for pizza and seeing the champions with the team, the coaches, the parents. Also, the fire department escorted with the lights and sirens when we got close to Winona after we winning. This award is for everyone involved, and I would always be proud to Winona. Thank you. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Thank you, Saint here, Rena. You guys my rock. Thank you.
gonna say thank you to you as well. 12 years ago when I took this job, came to my very first floor hockey game, you were there. You sat next to me and you taught me how to play floor hockey. I don't know that you've missed the game yet, but I appreciate every conversation because I don't, like I said, I don't think you've missed one. And I enjoy going to them to see you and to see those kids play, so thank you. As I said before, it's my honor to stand before you today as we recognize excellence, dedication, and the lasting impact that these athletes and coaches have shared with us in their careers at Winona Senior High School and through their remarks today. The Hall of Fame isn't just a place, it's a legacy. It celebrates individuals whose achievements have not only set the standard, but have shaped the very fabric of what the Winhawk family stands for. Today, we honored 6 individuals that have gone above and beyond. Their stories inspire, their accomplishments resonate, and their names deserve to be remembered. So let us celebrate greatness, preserve history, and welcome the newest members of our Hall of Fame with a round of applause. I do want to say a quick thank you to everyone that made the last 2 days successful. The entire Hall of Fame committee, Winona Area Public Schools administration, our coaches, our maintenance, and our friends and family. I want to say a very special thank you to the Winona Senior High School Hall of Fame committee for all of their hard work over the last year. Very few people know what it takes in order to put this on. And we will start here in probably the next month, get ready for next year. I can't do it without you, and I'm very proud to be part of that committee. I do also want to share a little tidbit. For those of you that were at the game last night, you may have noticed there was an extra videographer in the group last night. That videographer was from the Minnesota Wild. They were in attendance to see some of our Hall of Famers, and eventually they're going to have a video put together that celebrates Winona. And so you will be part of that, so I thought that was pretty cool. When that comes, when I see it, I'll make sure I share it out so everyone can have it take a look at that. I also want to just say a quick thank you to Dave Jensen for Farmers Insurance. He's one of the proud sponsors and supporters of this event, and without him, we certainly can't do it the way we do it. So in closing, before you leave today, I just have a couple quick announcements. First of all, for those family members or those people that couldn't be in attendance today, we do have this live stream. That live stream will be on our WAPS Activities YouTube page. It will be there today, tomorrow, next week, and next year. For those of you that are curious now that you've been to this one, you want to see what happened last year, last year's is there as well. So feel free to share that out, and if you forget and you get home, and you want to remember, send me an email and I'll gladly show you where the link is at. I would also invite you to check out the Hall of Fame wall. It's just down the stairs and towards the gym, right before the gym where you see the restrooms at, make a right, you can't miss it. Today's plaques for all of our inductees today are up on the wall already, thanks to our maintenance crew, and that's where our future ones will be as well. I can't say enough, but thank you again for all of you being here today to celebrate these 6 awesome athletes and coaches, and I hope you have a great rest of the weekend. Now, I got one more thing. We did get some signs that were not taken last night for our inductees. Please take them. If you leave them, we're going to assume you don't want them, but those are the ones that were on the card. And I'm also told to tell you, you're allowed to stay as long as you want, but if you stay too late, they are going to ask you to chaperone the dance tonight. So if you start to see people wandering in that aren't as dressed as nice as we are, you may want to run, okay? Because they're still looking for chaperones. Otherwise, thanks again and have a great weekend.
daughter Jan, son Justin.
I'm not super proud of it. So good.